Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan and today we are going to be discussing the best NHL free agents for the 2021 NHL offseason. Now we are still a couple months away from free agency actually going underway, but there is so much potential, not just in terms of the forwards, but the defensemen and the goaltending. There are so many available options and so many great players actually that could be available in the 2021 NHL offseason. But what do I see and who do I see as the best free agents in this upcoming class, and where do I see these free agents signing on free agent day? Watch till the end for all of the predictions and all the free agent rankings, and hit that subscribe button if you are new. 60% of the people that are watching the videos aren't subscribed. We make daily hockey content on this channel and we would love to have you. Now, as I said before, this 2021 free agent crop is simply stupendous. I don't think we've seen a crop this strong in a very long time with both the UFAs and the RFAs. And we're going to be going through each and every single position, going through the top UFAs, the top RFAs, and just seeing who could be available this year that is really enticing. And spoiler alert, there is a lot. So we are going to start out with the best UFA centers for the 2021 free agency. And this was easily the weakest position in last year's free agency. Not a lot of quality, not a lot of quantity, but this year is a different story. The centers this year are really solid and a lot to choose from on the top end and the bottom end as well. So for the UFA centers, we're going to start out with the main one in Edmonton Oilers top 6 center, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. This is a super interesting one and a guy who could play both positions, but will most likely be a center with whoever he ends up signing with. But especially if he doesn't end up re-signing with the Edmonton Oilers, this is a premium top tier center that as a top 6 guy, so many teams would love to have. He will definitely get paid in this offseason. I think could get upwards of $7 million, maybe even more than that on his deal. You also got David Krejci from the Boston Bruins, Philip Deneau from the Montreal Canadiens, Paul Stastny, Jason Spezza, Alexander Wenberg, Mikael Granlund, Nick Bonino, Eric Holla, Ryan Getzlaf, Casey Zizekas, and Luke Glendening. All those guys, at the very least, solid NHL contributors, but also on the top end, again, Krejci, Hopkins, Deneau, Stastny, Spezza. That's not too bad, and definitely some guys that could serve top 6 roles. Now, compare that to probably the best UFA center of last year, which I think was Mikael Granlund. You can start to see where it gets just a smidge better, I would say. But we're now going to go on to the RFA centers this year, and there is a lot to work with as well. Some amazing young talent that, in terms of an offer sheet potential, I could see a couple of these guys maybe getting a couple of interests out there. But for the available RFA centers this year, you have Elias Pettersson leading the group, which is going to be a huge contract for the Vancouver Canucks to end up going with. You also have Sam Reinhart on the Buffalo Sabres, Jesperi Kotkaniemi on the Montreal Canadiens, Andrew Kopp, Philip Hedl, Tyson Jost, Joel Eriksson, Ek, Pius Suter, Casey Middlestat. Some really solid young talent, but definitely the most interesting, I think, will be Elias Pettersson. With the Vancouver Canucks kind of strapped against the cap, they will try to re-sign him as much as humanly possible, obviously. But if a team wants to be really sneaky and go ahead with an offer sheet, I don't exactly blame them. Now, especially out of that UFA group, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins to me is probably the most interesting. He probably has a 50-50 chance of being re-signed by the Edmonton Oilers. They do have a lot of free agents to work with, not just on him, but guys like Tyson Barrie, Adam Larson that they do need to work out, and guys like Kailer Yamamoto as well as RFAs. So not too much cap space for the Edmonton Oilers, and especially if they lose versus the Winnipeg Jets, it's not exactly going to be too pretty. But we're now going to go on to the UFA wingers, and this is certainly another category where it's just amazing in this year's crop. So many great wingers to choose from. And on the UFA side, there's going to be some great top-end talent. And of course, coming in first is Alex Ovechkin of the Washington Capitals. Now, I do want to say that unless there's a really special case, I doubt that Alex Ovechkin would go to a different NHL team than the Washington Capitals. I think it's either the Capitals or potentially going back to Russia. But it's been floated around this might be the last year of Alex Ovechkin's career with the Washington Capitals. So maybe, again, a team like the Canucks and the thumbnail maybe are actually going to be crazy enough to go after it and try to make it work. I mean, Jim Benning said he's going to be aggressive in the offseason, and Alex Ovechkin would definitely be an aggressive pick, that's for sure. But going on to some other ones as well, you got Gabriel Landeskog of the Colorado Avalanche. He needs needs a new deal. You got Taylor Hall, Zach Hyman, Blake Coleman, Brandon Saad, Mike Hoffman, Kyle Palmieri, Tomas Tatar, Jaden Schwartz, Nick Foligno, who is on the bottom of this list but got a first and 2 fourths of the trade deadline. There is a lot of great wingers here, and definitely a lot of guys that fit that playoff mold that people are looking for. You've got guys like Zach Hyman, Blake Coleman, Brandon Saad, Kyle Palmieri, guys that are definitely going to get paid for their playoff style that usually comes through around this time. But going on the side of the RFAs for the wingers, there is just, oh my goodness, there is so much potential here in terms of players working out new deals and potentially some offer sheets. But for the available RFA wingers, I'm just going to start out with Kirill Kaprizov of the Minnesota Wild, a big-time one and Minnesota's #1 priority heading into this offseason to get him re-signed. You also have Andrei Ovechkin of the Carolina Hurricanes, Kevin Fiala out of the Minnesota Wild. They have both Fiala and Kaprizov off their deals. Pavel Buchnevich of the New York Rangers, Drake Batherson of the Sens, Brady Tkachuk of the Sens as well, Jacob Vrana, Patrick Laine, who could definitely end up getting an offer sheet by the time it's all said and done. That would be interesting. You also got Connor Garland, Jordan Kyrou, Ila Tolvanen, Kaylee Yamamoto, Max Comtois, and there's some amazing variety in terms of the winger RFA crop. And again, if a team just wants to be somewhat different and go with an offer sheet, there's some pretty good options on the table just for the wingers. But now we can officially move on to the 2021 free agent crop of defensemen. And both on UFA and RFA sides, there is so much amazing players to choose from here. We're going to start off with the UFA crop for defensemen and start off of a bang with Dougie Hamilton of the Carolina Hurricanes. This is easily the best defenseman on the market right now and the best we've seen since Alec Pietrangelo last year in last year's free agent crop. But Dougie Hamilton, to me, is a top 10 defenseman in the league. He's been so consistently solid for the Carolina Hurricanes, and a lot of the defensive issues that have been overblown have just been that overblown, and especially these past couple of years, he's really just been a pretty average defender while also being one of the best transitional defensemen, one of the best offensive producers in the entire NHL. Hamilton, I think, could get upwards of $9 million, maybe even more, and I think that's pretty rightfully deserved. I doubt Carolina is going to be able to re-sign him, especially with guys like Svechnikov going off their deals and needing a new contract this offseason as well. But there's still some other amazing options on the UFA side. Jamie Alexiak, who I think is a super underrated one for the Dallas Stars. Tyson Barrie, who is kind of a mystery. We'll see what he ends up getting, but as an offensive power play defenseman, he still has his value. You have Alec Martinez, Mike Riley, who's going to get absolutely paid in this offseason too. Brandon Montour, Ryan Murray, Adam Larson, David Savard. Not as interesting as the RFA class for the defenseman, but again, guys like Dougie Hamilton will get absolutely paid in this offseason, especially to a team that needs that power play offensive quarterback. But if you thought that UFA crop was pretty decent, wait until you hear the RFAs for defensemen. Oh my gosh. If a team actually, I'm begging, uses the offer sheet and actually is able to be strategic with it, we could see so much in this RFA defensive class that will be super interesting to see. I'm just going to read off the top 4 RFAs in the defensive class this year, and you guys can do whatever you want with them. Cale Makar, Miro Heiskanen, Rasmus Sandin, and Quinn Hughes. Again, if any team wants to use an offer sheet, please go ahead and use some creativity because it could happen right here. Now, for the other RFA defensemen, you got Adam Pelech, you got Neil Pionk, Gustav Forsling, Dante Fabro, Vince Dunn, Jukka Harju, and Travis Sanheim, but really the big draw are those top 4 guys. If we take away Adam Fox, those are probably the top 4 most promising young and potential defensemen in the entire NHL. All 4 of them are RFAs this year, and all 4 of them need new deals. Now, if I was a sneaky GM and I saw what was going on with Colorado, where they have to get guys back like Landeskog and also another player that we'll talk about later, guys like Brandon Saad as well, and you offer sheet Cale Makar and try to get as much back for him, maybe even you try to get him for like $10 million or something, that could be super interesting. And I think, again, the Avalanche are not a team that has a totally infinite amount of cap space, and Cale Makar will obviously be their #1 priority this season. But again, this RFA class for defensemen, and really just this defensive crop in general, is very, very good. And if you're in need of a young defenseman, especially this year, again, use an offer sheet, please. Anyways, we're going to go on to the goaltending now, and another really interesting crop. Last year, the goaltending was maybe the strength of the UFA crop, and even though it might not be the same way this year, there's still some amazing options, especially in terms of the younger side of things, I would say. Usually when you have UFA goalies, a lot of them are on the older side. This time around, there's some really good players in their mid-20s that are really good starters in the NHL. And we're going to go for the UFA goalies here today and start off with Philip Grubauer of the Colorado Avalanche. That's the other player the Avalanche do need to re-sign this offseason, on top of Saad, on top of Landeskog, on top of Cale Makar. He's been great for them this year and has proved himself as a really solid, a really consistent starter, and going into this year's playoffs has been really good as well for the Avalanche. That'll be a player that will definitely get paid as well. We'll see how long-term he goes with it, but definitely a player who could get upwards of 6, maybe. I don't think he'll get $7 million, but I think 6 around that area would be definitely worth it for both sides involved. You have also Chris Trigger from the Florida Panthers, who's definitely going to be able to test the UFA market. Might end up being a Seattle Kraken by the time it's said and done, but that'll be another interesting name to keep up on. Linus Ullmark of the Buffalo Sabres, who has already come out and basically confirmed that he will end up testing the UFA markets. He might end up signing with Buffalo still, depending on the money there, but definitely a guy that could go to a contender and possibly be the starter. You also have Jonathan Bernier of the Detroit Red Wings, who's been really good on a bad Red Wings team and could get a lot of value as even at least a backup at the NHL level. You also got Peter Mrazek, Tuukka Rask, who might be UFA after this year, or might be a free agent after this year for the Boston Bruins. You have Antti Ranta, Frederik Andersen, Mike Smith, who's been great this year, Laurent Passois, Yaroslav Halak. There are some really good UFA options, and if you're in need of goaltender, some really strong ones to add to your team. Now, we can now go on to the RFAs, and this is probably even more interesting than the UFA crop because there is a ton of really good young RFA goalies, especially this season compared to last year, which really didn't have too much to offer. This year, though, in the RFA goalies, I'm just going to list them out, and you guys can dissect them yourselves. Alex Nedeljkovic, Juuse Saros, Igor Shesterkin, Ilya Sorokin, Ilya Samsonov, and Carter Hart. That RFA list is absolutely ridiculous, and that's basically almost every single really great young goaltender in the NHL right now as an RFA and potentially out there to new teams. That, to me, is a super interesting crop, and although I see most of those guys sticking with their teams at the very least, it is definitely something worth noting. With this UFA class, with this goalie class, there's a lot to offer, and again, we could see a ton of movement goalie-wise, just like we did in the last offseason. But honestly, going through each position, there is great quality and great quantity in each. I think this 2021 free agent crop is going to be absolutely amazing. There's going to be so many huge contracts handed out, but it's not going to be like a situation like 2016 where every single contract is bad. We will see some stinkers, absolutely. That happens every single year. But this year, there's a lot of young options, a lot of great options, not even just in terms of the RFAs, a lot of young UFAs in the market right now, right in the prime of their careers, testing out for new contracts and trying to go to new teams. So I think we will see a lot of movement in this year's offseason, not just in terms of the free agents, but in terms of the trades as well, but especially in terms of the free agency. There's going to be a lot of things going on, goalie-wise, forward-wise, defensive-wise, and the RFAs will also be a big thing to look out for. If I had to say one RFA that's most likely to get offer sheeted, it would definitely have to be Patrick Laine. He's one that will be super interesting to see the negotiations around with the Columbus Blue Jackets, but there's other situations like him that could result in an offer sheet and could result in some action in this year's offseason. But that'll be it for today, guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, join the Growl Gang, and join our notification gang as well. If you haven't already, comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on the free agency crop of 2021. Where do you see the big free agents going, and where or who do you see your team signing potentially in free agency? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments down below. Make sure you share this video with your friends. Get it out there to all your friends out there, anybody you know that likes hockey, and click on this card for all my hockey rankings content right on my playlist. My name is Nathan. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video or stream. Have a great day, everyone, and goodbye.